What is shaking, you guys? Welcome back to a Tuesday tune-up on the Let's Go Win podcast, where we are here to help you be happy, healthy, and wealthy. And we are going to be talking about one of my favorite subjects, and we have an absolute stud, thought leader. I mean, this man knows leadership, and we had such a cool conversation on his show. I know it'll be the same. His name is Jerry Macnamara, and he is a successful and award-winning CEO who has led 5 different companies in 5 different industries with recognition from various publications for his company's success. He now runs Proven Chaos, a company that helps CEOs create compelling companies while maintaining work-life balance. Jerry's mission is to positively impact 5 million people in the next 5 years through better business practices. Brother, as we talked about, I love work-life balance. You know I'm passionate about it. Let's talk about that, man. Thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me. This is going to be super fun. I'm blessed to get another chance to speak with you. So thanks for having me.
That's my pleasure, man. And anytime we can talk leadership, you know I'm passionate about it. I know you are too. Yeah. So I don't know, you can give the rundown, but Proven Chaos, I love the name. It's cool. And often as we run businesses, it's like, yeah, you know, it is chaotic, but I love the Proven Chaos. What are you doing, man? What are you working on?
Yeah. So, I am so lucky to get invited inside organizations, and, the name of my company is Proven Chaos because you've proven there's a marketplace. But typically you're in chaos because your people, your systems, or your process haven't kept pace in that growth. And so you feel a little frazzled, a little stressed. And the goal in all of this, talk about work-life balance, is, if we become financially wealthy and emotionally bankrupt, I think you've missed the point of the game. And how do you make sure that you have success? Success is really the alignment of your vision, your values, and your actions so that you're living your life on your term. But success without fulfillment is the greatest ripoff in life. And so making sure that you're really clear on the impact that you want to go make, how you want to go do that, and then just showing up every day consistently and authentically to be your very best self, that's going to lead to a really good life lived.
When did you figure this out, brother? Because I didn't do it in my first company. I probably didn't do it until about company 3. Now you have, as it says in the bio, 5 different companies, 5 different industries, which tells me a lot of what you do is scalable across many industries.
Yeah.
But specific to this work-life balance, and I love what you said, like crush it in the bank account, but you're not fulfilled and you're emotionally just crushed. That sucks. But when did you figure it out, man? How did you do that?
Yeah. So the first company that I helped run was a high growth company. We went from 5.9 million to 15 million in 18 months. We were raising venture capital. We were opening stores all over the United States. And at 26, I started working 100-hour weeks. 3 different times had a $5 million venture capital check sitting in the middle of the table that we didn't take. And I was sleeping on the couch outside of my office. And at 26, I thought I was having a heart attack. And I remember, JM, literally laying on a hospital gurney and having those electrodes, hooked up to you and watching the little EKG or whatever that machine is, and counting the dots in the ceiling tile. And I was thinking to myself, at what cost has the price of all of this success come? And to me, it's when I just thought there has to be a different way of doing this, because, again, if you have success without fulfillment, or you go busted while you're getting rich, you've done it all wrong. And so it just caused me to have a moment to slow down and say, what is the goal over the course of my life? And so I do think about things, in terminal states, because I think it helps you make better decisions. But that was that moment where I just thought, man, I'm pouring all in, and all I've done is lose myself in this. There was only one person, and it was work, Jerry. I didn't have friends, occasionally, went to the bar and got a beer with some friends, but, was traveling a lot. And, I tell my wife, and she still doesn't believe me to this day, JM, but I tell her, I was working so hard building that company, I didn't kiss a woman for 4 years. And I said, that's not something that you brag about. And so that's how in tune and how focused I was. But again, I learned that lesson, really, really clearly at a young age, and I think it served me well over the course of my career.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I'm sure you get this, because I certainly do. When I bring up this idea that, look, you can have an amazing financial health, you can have amazing physical health, you can have amazing relationship health. You can have it, but so often, brother, this I'm going to rise and grind and I'm just going to go crush it, and then I'll go enjoy life. And I get this pullback all the time, like, you can't do both or all three or have this really holistic approach. How do you encounter and overcome that? If somebody's listening right now and they're like, bullshit, man, I can't. I know I got to run hard, make $100 million, and then I'll go enjoy life. How do you overcome that, man? I'm just curious.
So I just come back to more and now are the words of the devil. And so you have to do what's right for you, your life on your terms. And so, I was talking to someone earlier today, and I said to them, I almost never miss anything with my kids, sporting events, plays, because it's super important. I look at my 11-year-old and 6-year-old and, holy smokes, I only have 7 more years before Brooklyn goes off to college. I got a lot to teach there. And so I think what people do is they start living what they think society wants of you. And you're going to be sorely disappointed because you're not going to get what you want. And those other people don't actually care. And so regrounding yourself into, here's the life that I want to go lead, be damned what anyone else says. That's the life that you should go pursue. And by the way, I have some people, they want to throw themselves all into their work. They're okay with that. And if that's what they want to do and they're clear on it, and we can talk about balance and how that can, actually manifest better success for you over time, they come around over time. But at the end of the day, you can have the life. I think one of the things that I think about, because I know you're a high achiever as well, I call it the high achiever's trap. And it's where we think we have to do all of the doing. And what I tell people is, you don't have to do all of the doing. You have to resource the jobs to be done. That means, for us personally, I don't mow my lawn. I don't clean my swimming pool. We use Ship to get groceries into the house. Anything that we can do to outsource and give us our time back, you should be doing that, because I don't enjoy those things. So there's no reason for me to go do them. I'd rather go work a couple more hours, pay for all of that stuff, than not enjoy what I'm doing. And so that's what I think about. It's the self-limiting belief that you can't do it. And my answer is, why can't you do it? It's just as likely that you can do it as you can't. It's just you're telling yourself the story that you can't do it.
Yeah, it's so true, man. That story, these inherited beliefs, like, well, my dad mowed the lawn and did this. And it's like, okay, cool. It's not a judgment. It's just, to your point, I don't enjoy it, A. Right. B, I can create an opportunity for someone else, the guy or gal mowing the lawn. And it's like, that's what I think about, is as you're creating this and valuing your time, you're creating opportunities for someone else. It seems like a win-win, but man, so often that I'm going to do it because that's the way it's been done forever. I want to ask you on the leadership gap, because this is my favorite subject, is leadership. Mm-hmm. When you say leadership gap, brother, what are you seeing? What's happening? I just did a speech today, and I had a guy that was talking about how the world has evolved and it's changed, and he didn't like it. And I said, well, look, man, we have to change and evolve as well. You can't do what you were doing in the 80s and 90s and show up the same as a leader as today. What are you seeing, brother? What is the leadership gap all about?
Well, to that point in particular, the world has evolved from a command and control. How I led earlier on in my career versus how I lead today and how I coach people to lead is very different. The world has changed. It's evolved. We're in a remote or a hybrid environment. A lot of times people are trying to bring people into office. And so I just look at the gap that gets created. When you look at who gets promoted, the people who are great at doing the doing are the ones that get promoted. It doesn't mean that they're great at leading people. And in many cases, they may not even be interested in leading people. They want to stay in that individual contributor role. We see this time and time again with the all-star salesperson moving into the sales manager role, and suddenly they went from being an all-star to they suck at being a sales manager. No. They're just ill-equipped and they don't really have an interest in being a sales manager. It just, that was the only path to progression inside your company, was to be promoted into people leadership. And so the gap that gets created is between all of these high achieving individuals that we aspire to have inside of our companies. We have great hiring processes to identify them, and the business model that we run. So in my world, I call it the business acceleration model. It's what I've used to get companies onto the Franchise 500 and the Inc. 500 while also being on the best places to work. The gap that fits between them is the leadership gap. And so we need great leaders, and it doesn't happen by accident. One of the things that I was struck by was DDI did a survey of CEOs, and they asked them, what percent confidence do you have in the people of your senior leaders to deliver on the objectives that you're setting for the company? They said they believe in 48% of their senior leaders to deliver on the objectives. That's scary, that you only believe in two of your senior executives. Now it gets worse. When you look at the people who are in the VPs and the directors level, there's only 11% confidence in those people. So the bench strength, it's not looking very good behind it. And then you roll that forward, there's only 5% of companies that have a fully developed leadership program. So the CEOs know there's a problem. They only have confidence in one of two of their senior leaders. It doesn't look good behind them, yet we're not doing anything about it, and we're not delivering the results on the objectives for the company. Does that make any sense to you?
No. And these numbers you just threw out are pretty mind-boggling, especially the 5%. Is that what that I can't? I know it's true, and yet it's shocking when you say it out loud, and you're like, "What? That's what you're hinging your entire growth, your business plan, and yet we don't have a plan. We don't have a system for developing, hiring,
Absolutely.
and it's wild, brother.
It's wild. You know why? Because it's hard to tie an ROI to leadership development, right? It's easier to tie an ROI to a marketing budget or added personnel, but it's harder to say, well, if I develop my leaders, they will create more clarity and alignment throughout the organization, right? And so I think we're in a recession. We'll figure it out over time, right? Because it's always a look back number. But 9% of companies, Harvard Business Review did this study. I think they studied about 4,000 companies over the last 3 or 4 recessions. Only 9% of companies grew their revenues in a recession. And one of the hallmarks that they found was that the leaders had driven clarity and alignment to the front lines of the business so that people could make, as I say, the most important thing you're supposed to do as a leader is to create people who can make autonomous, agile, and aligned decisions. And if we haven't done a great job at the leadership level to drive that down, what the objectives of the company are, to the front line so that people can make those smart decisions, then we're going to concentrate power at the top, try and do the great man theory, and people are going to be confused as to how they drive value for the organization. And so those are the things that I think about when I talk about the leadership gap. Leading to me is not that hard, right? It takes intention. It does take discipline to show up consistently, day in and day out. If I say to you, JM, I'm sure in a previous life you've had this situation, or maybe you've even done it yourself. I have done it myself, where one day it was okay to do it this way. And the next day we did it. No, we're going to do it this way. Right. So, leadership quicksand. A lack of clarity leads to confusion. Confusion leads to frustration. Frustration leads to a break in trust. Break in trust means we don't have relationships across the company. Guess what we have? Poor performance. It's not their fault. It's our fault. We did not create clarity throughout the organization. And so those are the things we have to do better as a leadership team to make sure that our people know exactly what's expected of them.
It's so crazy too, brother. When you create this clarity, it makes everyone's job way more simple. It becomes so complex that when you're not clear, when you're literally everybody's running around like a chicken with their head cut off, trying to grasp at anything they can because we're in a recession and we gotta figure it out. But when you actually simplify everything and you get clear, like, hey man, this is where we're going, this is what we're doing, you own this, these are the expectations, this when we check in. It sounds so basic, but it really is, right? I mean, it's
but
pretty
it works.
simple, right?
It works. And I have a CEO that I work with, Nathan Adams, who's hugely talented. He always laughs at me. He's like, you always make it sound so simple. Like, I was like, buddy, anyone can make it sound complex. But the reality of it is we want to make bigger bets on fewer priorities. What the problem is, we try and get it all done. We try and preserve optionality. Oh, that sounds like a great idea. That sounds like a great idea. No. Be disciplined. What's going to create the throughput to move the needle on the business? We do those 3 things, then we move on to the next 3 things that we can do in the next quarter. And so you do that, rinse and repeat, JM. It gets real easy to create success. I just am amazed. I don't know your experience here, but I'm always amazed that people who don't plan their business, don't take time to say, here are the objectives for the quarter. And you have to do it, in my opinion, you have to do it quarterly because the world changes really, really fast anymore. And so, you miss that mark by 1 degree, 90 days later, you're way off into la la land. And so
I kind of want to drive this point home because let's just go down the AI rabbit hole for a second. Chat GPT is the example I'll give because everybody kind of knows it now.
Sure.
6 months ago, it wasn't out in the market. So if you didn't check in quarterly to when Chat GPT went to then Chat GPT 4, yep, and it's continuing to accelerate. I mean, AI companies are popping out everywhere. If you didn't check in quarterly and you're not utilizing some of these tools to your advantage,
yep,
you're way behind so much of your competition. And that's where, brother, that's where it does, like, you're so right. The world is so much faster today than it's ever been. And with converging technology, it's going to continue to become more and more important that you do what you just said. So what does that look like, brother? Is it an offsite retreat? Is it just making sure, hey, guys, we need to check in as an executive team where we're going? What does that look like?
So if you can afford to do it, which I hope you are a profitable company and you can go do, I always tell people you should get offsite. You should do 2 or 3 days. It does take that long to plan. And if you want to do inspired thinking, you have to go to inspiring places. When you stay inside your own boardroom, it's easy to get pulled in. Hey, I just have this one question, JM. It's a distraction, and you're not changing the way in which your environment to change your thinking, right? So we drop people into different places. I'm always amazed people say, like, oh, I don't have time to plan. And when you start to, like, literally break this down, if you have 50 people in your company and they all work 40 hours a week, right? Most people work a little bit more than 40 hours a week, but 40 hours a week, and you're planning for 13 weeks of productivity, are you telling me that your leadership team can't take the time to plan for 26,000 hours of productivity? You want to leave that to chance? You want to let people, like, make their own decisions about what they're going to work on and what they should be pursuing? Because nature abhors a vacuum. If you don't tell people very specifically about what it is that you want to see them do, then they do what they think is right. It's not their fault. It's our fault. We just didn't create the clarity for them. So I always find it laughable that people say, like, oh, I don't have time to plan. It's like, you want to leave all your productivity to chance. I'm not doing that. I would never do that.
Yeah, it is astonishing, brother. I want to shift for a second because I love the 5 million goal in the next 5 years. So you clearly sat down and said, here's a plan. Where did the 5 million come from? Why is that number so, why does it mean so much to you, brother, that you help so many people along the way?
I think that's why I was put on earth, to be of service to people. I think the gift that I was given was in business, just the way my mind works. And so as I thought about what am I supposed to do in the second half of my career? I wanted to go make an impact. And so I said, what can I do over the next 5 years? I chose the number 5 million because I wanted to be big enough to scare me and small enough to make sure that I could go get it. And so if I do this right over the course of the next 4 years, the two models that I had talked about, the 9 principles of personal performance and the business acceleration model, will be in books. And I will be on stages teaching people how to plan and how to run compelling companies. And then, the leadership gap really has 3 components. It's the leader as individual. How are you going to show up every single day? The leader as technician. Those are the leadership competencies. I've outlined them. And then the leader as strategist. And if you can train people on those 3 elements, I think you get a real fighting chance to create a company where people love to show up every day. They get surprised every 2 weeks. They get paid to come here and do this work. And that's the world that I dream of.
That's a beautiful world, man. If I was to ask you one thing that you wish every leader would expand upon, would increase, would make a greater strength, is there one thing that you see in all leaders that you're like, gosh, I wish every leader did X?
I think at the heart of it, if you can make promises to your people of how you're going to show up, right, which is to say, like, here's my vision, here are my values, this is my operating system, it's how we're going to treat each other. Here's my board of directors, right? I'm going to be really clear about who I'm going to call JM because I have this question. And I know he's a really smart dude and he's going to be passionate and excited to talk to me. And once you get that piece of it right, how I'm going to show up, the noise in your life to chase the more and now, to have that fear of failure or that fear of judgment or that imposter syndrome, those things meld away. It's not that I don't see them. They just sit up here, right? They're like noise, static on the radio. But the clearer I am, the faster I can go. And instead of making my people guess what's going to set Jerry off or not set Jerry off, I'm going to give them the answers to the test. I'm going to tell them, I have a personal user manual. Do you want to know things that make me angry? Like, I'm going to give you the answers to the test. I'm not going to make you figure it out for 90 days. And so when we do that, you create this culture of psychological safety, where people can literally show up in their authentic selves, in contribution and alignment to the mission that we're on, the values that we hold as a company, how we're going to treat each other, and we just, align our actions to it and to the moon.
Be a lot of happy people out there if they would do what he just said. Go back and listen to that last minute and a half. It's brilliant. Brother, what didn't I know enough to ask you? Because I could sit here and bullshit with you all day, man. You're a fascinating guy. We are passionate about so many of the same subjects. But what did I miss where you're like, JM, I have to get this to the audience before we start to wrap up?
I think about 2 things, 2 misses that I'm seeing in the marketplace, especially when, things are a little bit tight. I think over the last 5 or 6 years, CEOs have felt really, really smart because, the winds have been in our favor. I would double down on the important, painful problem that you solve in the marketplace and who you solve it for. Then that way we're not chasing so many shiny objects. We get really clear on that piece. And then the second piece that I've really been fascinated about and have been working with CEOs is how do we create frameworks which are really the scaffolding to a scaling business? It's how we ease the leadership burden. So, for instance, have you ever thought about how you make decisions, JM? Companies.
Me? I have a whole system. I have to, brother, because my brain goes all over the place if I don't.
That's right. Do all of your people that you're involved with know that system that you have?
No, in all fairness, no. My wife, yes, but not everyone, no, because it would be chaotic, would be the best word to use, but there is a system.
Okay, fair enough. But getting people to be thoughtful about their approach of how they make decisions, what our financial model looks like as a company. Here's our gross margin target. Here's our operating margin target. It all just creates alignment and eases that leadership burden. So if we're really clear about how we make decisions as a company, the gift that you get as the leader is you get to go on vacation without people calling you because we're all aligned. As a company, we have a philosophy. Here's how we allocate resources on opportunities. And you start taking this all the way down. What's our hiring philosophy? What's our compensation philosophy? We don't leave these things to chance. We just create clarity and say, here's what our people and culture department, what their role is. If we're operating in an ideal state, these are the things that they're doing, and here's how they're contributing to the strategic vision. You do that across all of your business. And by the way, the business will start to run itself. You'll start to say like, I wonder what my role is here.
A little more work-life balance coming out of that for sure.
Amen.
Brother, I can't believe how fast it went. You are awesome. If people listen to this and they're like, I want to do some of this, I want to go on vacation, I want my company to run smoothly, where would they connect with you online?
Yeah, so provenchaos.com is a great place to start, and LinkedIn, we're pretty active there. You can find me, Jerry Macnamara, and connect with me on LinkedIn.
Brother, you are a brilliant man. I appreciate the way you show up. And you have one of the coolest names, as I talked about. Big McNamara fan in terms of basketball. And you are just as dynamic, my brother. So thank you for coming and being on the show.
Amen. JM, thank you so much for having me. This was really terrific.
It's truly my pleasure. You guys, I mean, look, he talked about your company running smoothly. He talked about having some work-life balance, actually enjoying the fruits of your labor. There's so many good things that Jerry does, and he makes it so simple. That's what I love about this guy, and he is one of the most humble, modest, just cool guys. Go check him out at Proven Chaos. Great human being. And make sure to share this with people. Everyone. He said 5%. 5% of companies today actually have a leadership system. It's crazy. So 95% of you guys know somebody right now that doesn't have a system. Share it. Get it out there. Let's continue to help other people be happy, healthy, and wealthy. Till next time, you guys, remember your mindset matters. I appreciate you all.